The case I'll be discussing is Powell versus Alabama. This case became important because the right to counsel was first addressed in 1932 in this case. The case is famous for mandating that under the Sixth Amendment, counsel be provided to all defendants charged with a capital felony in state courts, regardless of the defendant's ability to pay. To give background on this case, in March 1931, 9 African American males, 7 white males, and 2 white females were riding on a train traveling through Alabama. During the course of the trip, a fight broke out between the males. All 7 white males were thrown from the car, and a message was sent ahead reporting the fight and requesting that all African Americans on the train be removed. The train stopped, and a group of sheriffs seized 9 African American males allegedly involved in the fight. 2 other African Americans who were not involved in the fight, and 2 white females from the train. The males involved in the fight and the 2 females were transferred to Scottsboro, Alabama. Now, the 2 females alleged that they had been sexually assaulted by the African American males, and news of this spread, of the accusation spread as the males were detained and then transferred to Scottsboro in the process of them being transferred. So word of their coming and the alleged assault preceded them, and they were met at Scottsboro by a large crowd. Now, at this time, the crowd was incensed that this group of African American males had raped 2 white females. Since they were accused, they were arrested and charged with the rape. The defendants, they did plead not guilty at this arraignment, and a trial date was set for 6 days after the indictment. At this time, the judge appointed members of the local county bar association to step forward and represent these 9 African American men. No one stepped forward to represent them. They pled not guilty. They were indicted for rape the same day, but they weren't allowed to contact their family, and they did not have the opportunity to speak with any counsel. And since this trial was set for days later, there's still no adequate amount of time to prepare a defense. Well, on the morning of the trial, an attorney from Tennessee appeared and said that he would represent the young men. And no member from the county bar had taken any responsibility to help defend these young men. Well, the attorney from Tennessee, he was appointed an attorney to help assist him, a local attorney to help assist him with the case. But this was on the morning of the trial. They had no opportunity to prepare a defense or anything like that. During the trial, they were tried in 3 different groups, and there were 3 separate trials, and each trial lasted a day. None of the attorneys for the defense offered or put forward closing statements. They really didn't have a defense, and they didn't have time to prepare one. So at this time, they were convicted of rape and sentenced to, the punishment for a rape conviction ranged from 10 years in prison to a sentence of death. All of the young men, with the exception of one, were sentenced to death. The one who was not sentenced to death, he was the youngest. He was 13. They couldn't decide whether he should be sentenced to death, but he was sentenced to life in prison. So at this time, they appealed their convictions to the Alabama Supreme Court on the grounds that the group was not provided adequate legal counsel. Well, the Alabama Supreme Court upheld and confirmed the convictions and said that their trial was fair. Like, this is what it is. This is what happened. The young men then, in turn, appealed to the Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court. And in November 1932, that's when we have the case that is now known as Powell versus Alabama. The Supreme Court sided with the Scottsboro boys 7-2. They said that the boys were not represented adequately. They had the right to retain and be represented by a lawyer, and that was fundamental to a fair trial. So they did not receive a fair trial, and that there was a failure of the trial court to give them reasonable time and opportunity to secure counsel, and that was a clear denial of their due process under the 5th and 6th Amendments. And then their rights under the 14th Amendment due process clause, saying that no state shall make or enforce any law. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. They go on to say, the Supreme Court go on to say that the necessity of counsel was so vital and imperative that the failure of the trial court to make an effective appointment of counsel was a denial of due process within the meaning of the 14th Amendment. So the Supreme Court reversed the judgments of the Supreme Court of Alabama for the constitutional errors and remanded the case. Note that the Supreme Court did not decide the case and declare the defendants innocent. They just demanded for them to have a new trial. Thank you.